Hey everybody, it's Kairos. 2 days ago, I made a video about how Suning drafted an early game bot lane, invaded at level 1, and made the game completely unplayable for Team Liquid through vertical jungling and isolating the bot lane. The very next day, Team Liquid managed to pull off a win against G2, who was actually leading the group at the time. And this begs the question, how did TL turn around the ship so fast and keep their world hopes alive? Well, they actually did it by stealing a page from Suning's playbook. In draft, TL secures an early kill pressure bot lane with decent level 1 potential. HoB Kalista and the E start on Sett can provide more than enough damage to lock someone down and 100 to 0 them. Since both supports are melee also, G2 won't have an easy time thinning the wave if there's a slow push or poking out TL to prevent a dive. And what Sett does really well is he thrives in these dive situations. He is able to take up the turret and then convert that into damage on his haymaker. This dive threat gets even worse. It's more apparent after Sett hit 6 and Kalista hit 6 because he can ult in and then Kalista can reset the turret aggro. That means that throughout the lane phase, TL is going to have a lot of pressure on Perkz and Mickey, and Broxah is going to path to make sure that they don't get to play the game. So Team Liquid goes ahead and they take this level 1 invade to set up the vertical jungling, and G2 decides to contest the buff rather than concede it. CoreJJ pulls the trigger and flashes between Jankos and the red buff to guarantee the stun, and then he drops the ignite immediately to make sure that Ashe can't heal, and then they secure the kill as well as the red buff, and they get off to a perfect start. Next, instead of full clearing Jankos bot side, like what SOFM did to TL, he goes and he takes his Raptors on the way to securing his own red, and then getting triple buffs to build a early farm lead. Then at 6 minutes, we get to see the kind of early payoff of the farm lead that Broxah has been building. With mid priority and a 1 level lead, he forces Jankos out of his jungle and then secures the scuttle as well. And then later on, after a skirmish, Broxah takes the second spawn of red. So he's continuing the pressure on the bot side, and he steals most of the Raptor camp as well. He's up 15 CS at this point, and he continues to spot Jankos and keep him out of the game. Then at 10 minutes, Broxah starts up the Herald solo, and then G2 decides to rotate their bot lane up for a lane swap. When they commit to this play, Broxah leaves the Herald, and then Tactical and CoreJJ stay in the bot lane. They decide not to contest the first Herald, and bot gets to free push into the turret. And at this point, Tactical is actually only up 5 CS and 1 level. It's not a big advantage. Then G2 secures the Herald, and they drop it top, but Tactical at this point is almost up 30 CS and finishes off the first turret already before G2 can drop the Herald. And then Perkz is forced this entire time to share XP and gold with Jankos and Wonder, who are sticking around because they are trying to get the turret in range to one-shot it with Herald. The end result here is a 2k gold lead for Team Liquid, and a lot of the advantage actually seems to come from G2 misplaying. They rotate their bot lane up for Herald, but don't reassign Wonder and Jankos to different parts of the map to funnel farm onto Ashe. And this results in a huge deficit by 13 minutes. It was only a 5 CS lead before the rotation. From 950, when Ashe left bot lane, Perkz had 78 CS. Then by 13 minutes, 1340 seconds, he had 95 CS. That's only 17 CS over that course of time, which is equal to about 4.5 CS per minute. Whereas Tactical, from that same time frame, goes from 83 CS to 146 CS, which comes out to 16.5 CS per minute. 100 would be a lot. That means that Kalista just gets a huge farm influx and a lot of gold poured into her come to the mid-game fights. So Tactical was already ahead, and then that lead just balloons because of G2's failure to reassign farm and to make sure that carries are getting enough resources to be a threat. And I think that TL also could have potentially expanded this lead more by exerting more pressure on bot than they did. The first Drake isn't taken until 12 minutes, but Broxah could have used the early pressure to secure it sooner, then they might have actually been able to take the second Drake. If they took the first Drake sooner, second Drake spawns earlier, and then they could force G2 to start contesting team fights earlier than they would like to with the really fed Kalista and the threat of the Sett. So that delays their power spike and forcing G2 to contest the Drakes a little bit later. And then also, I would have liked to see a proactive dive on the Ashe. Ashe is super immobile, and we talked about the dive threat of the Sett, the Kalista, and also they could have potentially brought down the Volibear to disable the turret and to really make a uncounterable dive at some point during the lane phase. And then instead of pressuring bot, Broxah decided to use his farm lead to pressure Nidalee, which he was successful at, and so that must have been a decision on his part to use his advantage that way. And by 15 minutes, he built a 20 CS lead, and he was making sure Jankos was always in vision of keeping track of his pathing and ensuring that he couldn't impact any lane. Overall, TL took the early invade strategy from Suning, and they were able to isolate the bot lane early on in a matchup that they were favored in. And then Broxah built on his lead by keeping tabs on Jankos and preventing him from impacting any lanes. And I'm really excited to see how Group C finishes out. I'm wondering if we'll continue to see early invades dictate the tempo of the games and kind of have a really big impact on the outcome. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.
I think there's no doubt that the draft we had yesterday was a difficult one to play, and Suning abused it in any way possible. We barely got to even play the game. And coming into today being 0-2, we had a serious team discussion, and we decided to change the mindset a bit, because in general, I think we didn't come in with the right mindset, the right preparation, and the right approach to the first two games, and I think that showed. But now we just came into it saying, guys, this is do or die. There's like at this point we shouldn't even feel pressured anymore. We have nothing to lose anymore. We just go in there, play the game, fight them. You know, we know G2 wants to fight. We're just gonna fight them back. We're gonna outplay them, and we're gonna win playing their game. And it seemed like it worked.